Linda.
Hi, Nancy.
Welcome to Season 1, Episode 5 of the Front Porch Book Club.
The Front Porch Book Club is a podcast that meets twice a month.
And we dig deep into the relationship between characters and the worlds they live in.
Grab your book and iced tea and join us on our front porch. Today we're talking about This Blessed Earth by Ted Genoways. This is a book based on 1 year in the life of a real Nebraska farm family.
I really was excited that we chose to make this our May 2021 book. It got so many great reviews, and I have so many friends that have read this book and just loved it. It's not just Nebraskans who are reading this book. It was selected as one of the Smithsonian's 10 best books of 2017. It also generated quite a bit of controversy here in Nebraska. I think people will be interested in hearing more about the social, political, emotional, economic, and environmental challenges that face the people who grow the food that we eat.
Ted follows Rick Hammond and his family from harvest to harvest. And along the way, we learn about family farming. We meet different people in their family, different people in the community. And that part of the story is really interesting to me. And it is a big year, but it gives us the insight of what family farming is really about.
Well, let's get to it. So, Lenny, what stuck out to you about this book?
Well, Nancy, we have some farmers in our family.
We do.
And I live here on the East Coast.
Are you a farmer?
No, I'm not. I live in a subdivision. But I like our farmers because they make our food. But, I remember growing up and going to the family farm and listening to the banter around the table on farming and big decisions that had to be made and what livestock to buy and what to plant and money and what machines to buy and all of those kind of things. And so I had that background going into this book, but this book then expanded all of that information that I had and helped me to fill in the gaps that I didn't have as a child listening to all of this.
Right.
So to me, it was very enlightening. To me, there was some very scary parts of it regarding the environment and the water shortage that is apparently out there that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
So there was some stuff that stuck out there for me pretty hard.
So we do have some farmers in our family. Our mom grew up on a farm in Iowa, and every year or two, we'd pile in the car and go visit her family in Iowa.
Mhm.
So it felt like farming was not very distant from us. But you're right. I mean, I think as children, we had basically no idea. And somehow I had the notion that farming was just the stuff they let us do. We rode horses around.
Well, that was fun.
That was fun. Every once in a while, I got to drive the tractor, not through any crops or anything, just to drive around. And I remember one year, I was very excited. I got to slop the hogs. And that was about the extent of what I feel like I knew about agricultural production, which obviously very limited.
Right. So this book was a big eye-opening experience, it sounds like, for both of us.
Definitely.
This strain on the family, the amount of money that's involved, the decisions that have to be made every year. Are we going to make a profit or not? Do we make the budget or not? Are we going to survive this?
Yeah.
That coupled with the fact of this farm has been in our family for all these generations. It's not like,
Yes.
or how much money are we going to get to go on a vacation this year? This is the survival of the family farm. The land has been in the family for generations. So there's a lot of pressure on the next generation to be successful. Farmers have to track the weather. They have to, oh my goodness, I had no idea. I figured that they wanted rain and maybe listen to the weather forecast. I had no idea about foreign trade agreements, technology, what the neighbor is going to plant, what should I plant, all of the other things. I like the premise of the book, but I also learned and have a newfound respect for all those farmers out there that are doing such a great job getting food out there with all of this pressure.
And can you imagine it's not even like trying to make these decisions with coworkers who, maybe you can maintain some sort of emotional distance from. You're trying to make these decisions with your dad and your brother, and that is pretty emotionally complex.
I think so. You know what? I really liked there was a family out there allowing us to peek in at them
Yeah.
and see the struggle and be real about it so that we could kind of get an understanding of what that must really be like. Because there's a lot of, let's just say, wives that don't feel like they could work for their husbands or whatnot. And that's at the same company, maybe in
Right.
different departments. This is a totally different scenario. Plus, you've got generations. It's not just a husband and wife, it's generations of
Yep.
people. It gets pretty complex.
And then, like you end up getting married. It's not just like you're getting married and if your parents don't like the person, whatever, doesn't matter. You're actually bringing someone into the business when you get married, and that impacts staffing decisions. Like this, the Hammons, their daughter gets married, and then suddenly they're saying, well, he can do so much work, he's so productive, maybe we don't need this hired hand that we've had for years and years and years. I mean, economically, suddenly it doesn't make sense because their daughter has gotten married. That is just such a unique situation that, people who aren't in farming don't understand at all, I don't think.
No, it was really eye opening to me. Oh, it was a lot to digest, I have to say. Not only these complex social issues and the family, I had no idea what people were doing with all those soybeans when I tried. I don't know that I've ever eaten a soybean. Why are we growing all these soybeans? I had no idea. Like the history growing agriculture for non-food, like that was not really on my radar.
Yeah.
And a big part of his book is on that. So that was really eye-opening. Nancy, what stuck out to you in this book?
Definitely the soybeans did. So here's a story. I remember mom was visiting me out here in Nebraska quite a number of years ago, and we're driving out probably around York County where this farm family farms. And we're driving along, and she says, huh, there are a lot of soybeans being grown here in Nebraska. Cause she'd been watching all the fields going by. Neither you or I know anything about crops. Like I can identify corn.
Yeah, yeah, that's
As
my limit.
yeah, aside from that, I'm pretty useless. Mom, of course, can identify any crop in any field from
Hmm.
a football field away. She can see wildlife. She can identify wildlife from 2 football fields away. So I was like, "Are you sure that's soybeans?" And she's like, "Yeah, these are fields and fields of soybeans. Nebraska is supposed to be the cornhusker state." She said, "You grow a lot more soybeans than you do corn, I think. At least in this part of the state you do." Well, how many years later, I'm reading this book. What do you know? She's right. We grow a lot of soybeans in this state.
Yeah, the whole history of that and how that came to be was really interesting to me. I
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah. The other thing that really stuck out for me is I love that he got into the whole Keystone XL pipeline situation, which I don't know, is that something that you even have heard of in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, because I thought it actually ran through Pennsylvania. I thought that's why it was called the Keystone Pipeline.
No. No, it does not run
Well,
through
okay.
Pennsylvania.
Well, here's the thing. There is a pipeline that runs through Pennsylvania.
I'm sure there
And
is.
we had protesters out there because they were going to run through a nunnery.
A nunnery?
They're sacred land.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and so priests and nuns were being handcuffed and driven off the property. I thought that was the Keystone Pipeline, but we may not have the Keystone Pipeline. We have a pipeline, and people weren't happy. Some people, because it was going through our farmland and through this like nunnery church area
Uh-huh.
over in Lancaster County,
Oh,
actually.
was it over in Lancaster?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and
okay.
they were handcuffing people.
Okay. This is a different Keystone pipeline. I know Pennsylvania is the Keystone State, but not everything that has Keystone as a name means that it has to do with Pennsylvania.
Oh,
FYI.
okay. I thought we were the center of the world. Who knew?
I know. I always thought so too. Anyway, for Nebraska, the Keystone XL pipeline is a pipeline that has been being planned for well over a decade by a Canadian company who is doing mining of tar sands oil in Western Canada, and they have a pipeline that partially does go through, a lot of western states including Nebraska, but in 2008 they said, "Well, we are going to build a new pipeline, and instead of being kind of at this big right angle, it's going to cut through kind of at the diagonal, and so it's going to be a lot shorter pipeline." And the route they chose went right through Nebraska and right through our beloved sandhills.
Oh, I know about sandhills.
Yeah, so the sandhills, like one of the largest sand formations in the world, I think,
Yeah.
grass covered sand dunes in the world, and that also is the area that our beloved Ogallala Aquifer, the High Plains Aquifer, lies under those sandhills, and that aquifer supplies so much of the groundwater for Nebraska farmers. This has been a huge controversy, like I said, for over 10 years, with Nebraskans, including kind of strange bedfellows of farmers and ranchers, as well as environmentalists and Native American tribes and others, saying this is too much of an environmental risk to run that pipeline through our sandhills and put our aquifer at risk. And this aquifer is not just Nebraska, it runs all the way from South Dakota down to Texas, although in the southern part of the aquifer they've really pumped it to oblivion. There's not much left there. So most of what's left of the aquifer sits really under Nebraska. So I was really interested to read about how this family was impacted by that huge controversy. And they happen to be agricultural producers who were saying they were against the pipeline. But as a result, some of the other farm families who lived around them who were in favor of the pipeline because they were getting paid by the company to have rights to go through their property. And I think there are also people who think that it will lead to lower fuel prices in the United States and that there will be jobs created. Although I don't know, I've read a number of reports that really say that that is not really so much the case. But anyway, it's definitely a controversy. There are people firmly on both sides of the issue. And as a result of the farm family in this blessed earth being against it, they lost a huge amount of revenue because they had always rented some farmland from a neighboring farm family. And the other farm family said, we're not going to rent that to you anymore because we don't like your stand on the Keystone XL pipeline. And I think that is so, that's something we don't think about in more urban areas, just the direct impact of taking a political stance and what that can really mean to your livelihood and, to the person who you're standing next to singing in the church choir every Sunday.
Right, because these are small communities, so you know everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the generations before you. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how this even became a political issue because I can understand why people want the money in their pocket. I
Yeah.
get that. But to make it political. I guess maybe I'm just thinking out loud. It's really more of a policy than it's really politics type of thing. But yeah, I found that was a whole nother dimension that I was not aware of in farming, is that now you've got neighbors that are kind of competing. Okay, we've got the pipeline, but we're also competing of what are they growing?
Yeah.
What am I going to grow? Where are they getting their seeds? Where am I going to get my seeds? Because in some ways they're in competition,
Yeah.
with each other to produce crops that are going to make money for them.
And the situation where a family might be trying to grow organic crops,
Yes.
and then their neighbor is using a kind of pesticide that drifts over because of the wind to their crops. They can no longer certify it as organic, and even worse, some of those pesticides will actually kill the crops
Yeah.
because the organic crops haven't been bred to be able to withstand it.
Yeah.
So because of what your neighbor does directly impacts what you're doing.
That's exhausting to me. This whole thing is just like, oh my goodness. Oh, we got to get along with our families. Now we got to get along with our neighbors.
Yeah, and your whole community.
Yeah, and your whole community, because you all are all in this together. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of money riding on it. So that just seems like a whole lot of pressure. And now, not only do we have all of this, we've got the aquifer.
We
And the
do.
most troubling part of this whole book, besides just feeling sorry, like seeing the struggle of the American farmer, is what is going on with this water situation.
Yeah.
The book had some lovely history thoughts, the family farm, all of that. I think, I don't know, like ripping parts off of cows or steers and branding and
Like
all
cat
that kind of stuff.
we call it castration in
Oh,
Nebraska.
I didn't want to say the word, but you know, all of that stuff. And then I can get with all of that. And now we're talking about water.
Yeah.
And that's when I became kind of anxious,
Yeah.
and disturbed
Yeah.
because we all need water
We do.
to live.
Yeah.
And so I can tell you honestly, I did not know anything about this aquifer. We've got I'm looking outside and there's green trees, there's mountains. Now and then over the decades, we've had droughts where they said, you can't water your lawn.
Right.
And people get, oh, well, rah, 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 rah. Because that happens, I don't know, maybe once every 15 or 20 years, people get upset about it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's about as far as I knew that there was an issue here with this water. So this book goes heavy and deep into this issue of water and this aquifer. He talks about this study in 2015 from the US Geological Survey that talks about these water wells, these water levels have fallen 64%. Yikes. Now, your aquifer out there, Agalilla,
Ogallala
Okwalala.
is the largest, yeah.
Okay,
See, we love our aquifers so much we named them.
I guess. That sounds like that would be like a Native American
Yeah, it
name?
is.
Oh,
It is, yeah.
okay. So that's really
Yeah.
neat. So I mean, this goes from Texas to like South Dakota or something,
Right.
and yeah, it's humongous.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need that aquifer to be full. And the understanding there is that that is worse than these wells on kind of a national level. So now I was getting very concerned.
I thought he did a great job giving the example of the town in Texas that during its boom years,
Depleted.
they depleted that southern part of the Ogallala aquifer, and now, as a result, the town is mostly gone. People can't do the same kind of farming that the town was built on, and really, Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas, that whole part of the Ogallala Aquifer is mostly gone, and to really reach it, you would have to go very, very deep.
And it's just not worth it, I guess,
Yeah, because it costs money.
financially.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
deeper you go, the more it costs. So we're pretty fortunate here in Nebraska that we have not depleted the aquifer. Part of that is due to a pretty innovative water management governance system we have in Nebraska called the Natural Resources Districts that have the responsibility for management of groundwater and surface water in our state. And that's something that has, I think, really helped our state.
It's amazing to me that you're so on the cutting edge of this, and then, like, to hear the one guy running around in his pickup truck. Okay, now you've got all of these family dynamics. You've
Right.
got the neighbor dynamics, and then you got some guy coming to your property looking at how much water you're using.
Yeah,
And then he's got to come and tell you, "Hey, you're using too much water.
right, right.
Cut back," you know? So I had no idea there were people that were doing this.
Over in the further west parts of our state, those center pivot irrigation structures, they are metered. So we know exactly how much water people are using. And that's something also extremely unusual that other states really aren't doing much of.
I wish that other states would look and see what Nebraska's doing because look, we're all in this together.
Oh, we sure are.
If Nebraska can figure out how to do this and they have piloted all this stuff and this stuff works, then it makes sense that other states adopt this. And that brings up another point in this whole book is this international connectedness
Yeah.
of not only are we competing and looking at our neighbor to go, are they going organic? Where are they getting their seeds? What are they spraying?
Hmm.
We got to think about people in China and
Yeah.
what they're going to want to eat
Yeah.
and the export, the import, the seeds. What happens globally in food affects us. I had no idea that we were. I would drive through Iowa and this and go, do we really eat this much corn in the United States? It seems like there's an entire state that's I'll get, a bag of corn from the grocery store every other week, but really are we eating this is all being sent to these other countries. So there's food that's going out, and then I didn't realize either. I mean, this is kind of sad that there are different kinds of corn. So some of that corn is just being fed to the cows
Right.
or whatever livestock.
Yeah.
It's not really for us, but
I think one of the things we never realized as children visiting our uncle's farm is how he was keeping track of the Chicago Board of Trade and what was
yes,
what were bushels of corn going for and what was beef going for, and that kind of depends on international trade agreements that the United States has with other countries. Will other countries accept how much of our goods, and how much will we be accepting of their goods at what price?
I have to tell you, the news has been so busy and farming is so busy. But I remember listening to agreement with China.
Right, huge.
uh,
Yep,
And here it is affecting
yep.
these farmers in Nebraska. I had no idea. I mean, it had a huge effect. And what the politicians were saying would result in this, and what actually resulted in this were two totally different things.
Mhm.
Looking at your industry in Nebraska, what percentage is farming and agriculture, livestock?
Huge.
Yeah.
Majority.
So reading the book and seeing everything that farmers need to know, I mean, they can't just have to figure out how to GPS their combine. That would put me, you know, in a bad place real quick trying to figure that out. Not only do I have to figure that out, I have to figure out the livestock trade from China. I mean, how much water, how I'm going to irrigate the water. This gets pretty complicated.
I can understand better reading this why there are so many children of agricultural producers who say, I am just not interested in going into farming. There is a real issue in our state, and I think in many states, that people are just not interested in continuing such a risky career. And I really got the sense more of why that would be. Every year, you are literally risking the farm, your
Yeah,
livelihood, to make it to the next year,
and working really hard.
working really hard. Yeah.
It's like people at church think the pastor only really works on Sunday. And then you look at these farmers and go, "Yeah, but they have, like, I don't know, 3, 4 months off a year, maybe 5.
Yeah.
What do they do between harvest and planting?"
Yeah.
Oh, they do a lot.
Yeah.
They do a lot. So I'm glad that he gave us a whole year so that we could kind of appreciate that.
Do you know what? The other part that really touched me about this book is the boyfriend of the daughter
Oh,
who
no.
was killed
Okay. Yep,
in Afghanistan, was it?
I think so.
Yeah. There are so many rural people who have signed up for the military and who have ended up losing their lives, and how that impacts the community in such a direct way, and maybe in a different way than more urban communities. The entire town felt the loss of that young man, and the entire town turned out when he was brought home, and they still have him in their minds and their hearts, and every year they remember him. I it's just heartbreaking.
It is, but you know what? That's why people love rural America.
Yeah,
When I heard of that, I was like, "I wanna live in that town where I know everybody,
yeah,
and I matter, and my neighbors matter, and everybody knows who I am." There's just something so special and endearing about that. That's probably really my favorite part of the book was his story
yeah,
and what he meant to the town and how the town embraced him and the girlfriend,
yeah,
and, oh, just I love that part of the story. That was I'm glad you brought that up because that was very, very sweet.
yeah. Did you cry?
I'm sure I did. I cried everything, so why wouldn't I cried at that? Probably. But I do wanna say something about the family farm.
Yeah,
You know that mom left that farm at 15 and she said, "I will not be back."
that's right.
And I was like, "Well, what in the world?" I know you had to get out and garden, and slop the pigs and, do your chores. Oh, now I understand that a lot more now
Yeah,
because it's a whole life. It's a whole lifestyle. It's a lot of work. And so she was one of them that said, "I'm going. As soon as I can get out of here, I'm
yeah.
going." And I also remember her saying that her brother did a lot of her chores for her and she loved him.
I do not remember mom saying that Uncle Delmer did a lot of her chores.
He did. He he took care of mom.
Did he
She
really?
just was not into it. Yep.
Oh,
Yep. Isn't that
that's
sweet?
very sweet.
Because I'm sure he had a lot on his plate. He was older
Yeah.
and he was into farming, but yeah, he did.
Wow. It was a great book. Were you excited to read it?
Yeah, when we talked about what books we thought would be good for the podcast, and you brought this book up, I said, "Oh, that would be great. Family farm. This is gonna be a sweet little
Little House on
story.
the Prairie.
This is gonna be a nice little story. I know a little bit about farming. This is gonna be beautiful." I love that. Yeah, that'll be perfect, Nance. I didn't know that it was gonna stress me out
Yeah,
over the water situation and the
yeah,
environment, nor did I realize it would have so much history to it. He did a great job, the history of where all of this has come from and where we're going and all of that, nor the complexity of it.
who would you recommend read this book?
Anybody who eats food
Yeah.
would be my answer. I think this book would be good for everybody. We should appreciate when we go It's not just going to the drugstore and piling stuff into your that was kinda what I thought of food, you go, you look over the stuff. This whole organic thing, non-organic thing, I'll take the stuff with the pesticides. I've already decided I don't wanna see bugs in my food. And sometimes I'll get the organic stuff and there's like a little bug in the lettuce. No, 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 no. Give me the spray. I want my food clean. That's with the spray on it. So, no, I think it would be good for everyone. Everyone, anybody who eats, I think would like this book. I think it's that Americana scene, especially with the boyfriend who passed away. This beautiful small town with the flags all lined up. Everybody knows everybody. Yes, that is there. But then there's this other part that was so mind blowing and so scientific. And boy, it gives you a really big respect here for the farmer. What about you, Nance? What do you think?
I thought that it was mostly going to be a biography about the farm family. And while it was that, I also agree that anyone who eats probably will find this interesting because it just gives you a much deeper understanding of where our food comes from and all of the hurdles really that have to be crossed in order for the food to get from the field to our plates, all the decisions along the way. And I also think people who are interested just in business and economics, I think people who are interested in the environment will find a lot
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
So I just really recommend this book.
Yes. I'm so glad we had it.
Yeah, me too.
Very good book.
In our next episode, we'll be interviewing a water expert.
Yeah, we need to talk to him.
Yeah, we'll have lots of questions. So before we get to that, though, we have had comments from listeners, Lenny.
Woohoo! We love our comments.
We do. Okay. So here is the very first message that we have received. And it was after our very first episode. So I'm so excited to read it.
Okay.
Okay. Eagerly awaiting next episode. I was having a down day, and your upbeat, insightful discussion brought out the sunshine in early March.
Oh,
Isn't
nice.
that a nice comment?
Oh, we spread some sunshine. I think that's
The
nice.
only question I have is insightful discussion. I'm not sure that our discussion for this book was very insightful.
If you want insight, you got to read the
You
book
gotta read this blessed
because
herb.
you will find out a lot about castration, soybeans, GPS on a combine, irrigation systems, and seeds. Plus, this whole internet. I mean, it just goes on and on. So he does a really great job.
Yeah. Next time, as I mentioned, on the front porch, we'll welcome Dr. Don Wilhite. And he is quoted in the book several times, particularly around those issues relating to climate change and drought and water. And among his many accomplishments, Dr. Wilhite was the founding director of the National Drought Mitigation Center. So we'll have lots of questions for him about water.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of unanswered questions there that we need to find some answers
Yeah.
to. You can get in touch with us by going to our website at frontporchbookclub.com. You can post comments and you can make suggestions for books for us to discuss. And you can start reading for our next book, which is going to be a book that I suggested, which is Where the Crawdads Sing. Now, here's the thing. When I got a Kindle, I was reading through my Kindle and I was doing my books that I like reading, and I put on Facebook, what book should I read next? And that's the book that got the biggest
Are
response.
you
Many
serious?
people said, read this book, Linda. So I read the book and I've read it 2 times now. So if you haven't read the book, you can get it on your Kindle, pick it up at your library, and read this book. And you'll join us next month. You'll be glad you did.
Linda, I am shocked. How many books have you read 2 times?
Well, not many, Nance.
No, you have not. And you read
No,
this one twice already.
I did.
Amazing.
I really liked it. I'm putting a strong plug for people to start reading the book now. I
Okay.
think you'll be happy you did. And join us next month.
We release episodes on the first and third Wednesday of every month. If you like this show, leave a review on whatever listening platform you listen to us on. Tell a friend about the Front Porch Book Club and invite them to join us on the front porch.
That sounds great. I will see you next time, Nance.
That sounds great.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.